Hey there, this is Dali, the host of the Dalitalks show, where I share knowledge and valuable information in hopes to inspire you to reach your goals, overcome challenges, and so that you know that you're not alone. My guest today is Kenneth Scott, and I've invited him to come on to the show because I feel like he has some special pieces of information for those of you who have children who are seeking to go play a sport at a university or beyond. So without further ado, here's Kenneth Scott. Welcome, Kenneth. Thank you so much for being on the Dalitalks show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really excited because I feel like people getting to know you is going to be very interesting for them and inspiring. For those who do not know who you are, would you please give them a short introduction in what you've been up to?
Yeah, definitely. So my name's Kenneth Scott. I'm a former collegiate and professional athlete, entrepreneur, and speaker as well. Graduated from the University of Utah while I was a student athlete there, where I earned and double majored in economics and human development and family studies. And just my main goal is just helping people maximize their window of opportunities to achieve success, whatever that may entail for them. And so that's just a little bit about me. And yeah.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your experience in athletics. You played football, right?
Correct. Yes. So a lot of tough days and a lot of, well, now stiffness waking up regarding, different ailments from playing, but it was beauty in it. So my time spent, during my collegiate days or even my short professional days, it was great. And then having the opportunity to speak at different places, gain those relationships, be in those hard moments and overcome different adversities. It's pretty cool just enabling that character that you possess during those moments. So during those times, it was great.
So just to help motivate some kids who might be thinking of going into sports, would you give us a little bit of background of those adversities at a young age and into adulthood, and how you overcame them, so that kids listening or watching right now can see that there is a way to get to that ultimate goal?
Yeah. So for me, the biggest thing I always tell kids is just know and understand the reason why you're playing football. Yeah, football is a game, but a lot of people, they want to play the game of football, in order to reach something else, whether that be, money or freedom, whatever that may be. But first thing I always tell kids is understanding your why, because along the journey, there's going to be so many times where you're going to have to overcome some adversity. Like for me, it was 2 torn ligaments in both my ankles to where I couldn't walk really. Obviously, they're at different point of times, but it came to a point where, man, if my why wasn't bigger than the adversity I was facing, then I wouldn't have been able to overcome it and continue playing on. Or even school, right? When I was coming up, I didn't take school seriously in high school. And that, that moment, it's messed up everything. I remember schools such as like Stanford and many others decided not to give me that scholarship as others because of my grades, right? And so it's just understanding the reason why you do things. And for me, it was like, okay, I'm trying to play football so that I can be able to have my mom and my family get whatever they wanted. Because growing up, in the Inland Empire where I was at, we didn't have too much. We was on Section 8, food stamps, SSI checks, different welfare programs. And so for me, I wanted to be successful more for my mom, so she can be able to get everything she wanted. She didn't have to go to bed hungry or sacrifice a meal so that I can eat. So my motivation was always that. So like I said in the beginning, start with your why, because that's going to propel you to do anything that, comes in your way.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, definitely. I'm sure that a lot of kids can relate. I know I can, because I think my purpose for wanting to join the military was so that I could help my mom, because she became a single mom when I was 14, and with 6 kids, I knew that college was not going to be something that she was going to be able to pay for me. So I thought, well, let me help out my mom. I'm going to enlist and get that GI Bill and do something with my life, But understand, I remember being in line at the grocery store, and I would pick the checkout person that I didn't know, because I was so embarrassed about being on food stamps. Because, you got to do what you got to do with my mom. She had to get help. So I was like, oh, when I grow up, I'm never going to be on food stamps. I'm going to work so hard so that this doesn't happen. So I understand. Yeah. So let's backtrack a little bit about the grades. Let's emphasize on this so that kids
Yeah.
understand how important it is. Can you elaborate a little
Right.
bit more about what went on there with the grades and your mentality about yeah, I'm gonna get in anyway if I'm a good player.
Right.
Hmm.
Exactly. And so for me, growing up, going into high school, my freshman year, I was on varsity. That's the highest level you can be at in high school. So I was already on varsity football. And so I thought, like, man, I have all the skills, man, college is going to, lust over me and want to offer me whatever. Right. And so it got to a point where I was getting scholarship offers. I'm like, okay, well, cool. Well, grades don't matter. I can just get a C and be okay. But it turns out I didn't take notice until Stanford came, and Stanford looked at my transcript. It was like, you have all C's. Like, literally, I only had A's and B's in electives, and they said you have all C's. And they were like, you're not going to pass the NCAA clearinghouse because you have all C's, depending on what your SAT and ACT scores may be. And because of this, we can't recruit you because you may not even be able to get into our school. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Wow.
You're speaking a whole bunch of gibberish to me right now. I'm talented on the field. Like, just figure out a way to get me on the field. And that made it apparent to me that, all right, I need to start taking this stuff serious. And my guidance counselor, she was like, listen, we prepped and did everything to get, everything cleared out the way as far as the grades. They said, okay, you need to take this class, you need to get this grade, you need to take this class to get this grade so that your core course GPA can go up. So during my last 2 years, it went from like a 2.0 to a 2.3. Not great, right? I didn't finish great, but I did go up from a 2.0 to 2.3. I went on to take the ACT, and I passed to where I would be qualified to not be an academic red shirt going into college. So now college is like, okay, he can come in and play right away. And so if I would have never, took advantage of, excelling in the classroom, I may have had to go the junior college route. And for all my junior college people out there, they understand that it's hard because you got to, a lot of times you're not able to get a scholarship to pay for those classes. And if you're coming from a background to where you don't have the finance to back you, you may end up dropping out. You're just going to be one of those another cases of, oh, he was a great athlete before. He just couldn't get his grades right. And so I didn't want to be another part of that. So after I got out of high school and went on to college, I just excelled. I was on the dean's list. I was showing off. I'm like, look, I'm gonna show y'all I'm educated. I'm gonna show y'all. And so, but yeah, man, grades is important. I mean, the higher your grades, the more opportunities will come your way.
Yeah. Ooh, this is gold. I'm so glad that we touched on this because there is that stereotype that
Mm-hmm.
athletes don't need to be smart or dedicated or have
Right.
good academic grades. And I'm really glad that you shared that because uh, for, I don't know how many times you hear people say, hey, grades do matter, but then kids are like, no, not for sports. I don't know where they get that from.
Right.
Yeah, and it's good that you learned. What grade were you in when you had that aha moment of Stanford's like, I don't know.
My junior year in high school, because I remember my first scholarship offer was from the University of Tennessee, September 1st. I remember the fax. I know I'm sounding old school, but the fax came in,
Yeah.
and I received my offer. But yeah, it was my junior year of high school when Stanford came in and was like, can't do it, buddy.
Did you have a dream college?
Yeah, so my dream college was USC, University of Southern California. So let me tell you how this recruiting game is. It's crazy. So every college has a certain amount of scholarships that they can afford each year, divvied up into position groups. So USC at that time, they only needed 3 wide receivers, which that was a position I played in that class. And so they already had gained commitments from 2 of them. And so Pete Carroll had left to go to the NFL, and Lane Kiffin came from Tennessee over to USC and brought a receiver over from Tennessee to take up that last spot. And so that crushed me because USC was my dream school. And if they would have just gave me the opportunity and just let me wait out the process, I would have went to USC easily, no questions asked. But I just had wanted to, do the whole recruiting process, like the feel of getting love from all these colleges and being able to do those official visits and stuff. But USC was like, man, we're trying to get our commitments ready for the year. So I missed out on that opportunity, but it's all good. Everything happens for a reason.
So for somebody who's right now a junior looking into going pro, what advice would you give them as far, aside from the grades, what other things should they be doing so that they shine and are noticed by scouts?
Yeah. So the one thing I tell them is that first off, your brand has to be there. And what I mean by that is understanding your pie. And I tell athletes all the time, if you look at Nike, what do they stand for? They're like, oh, Nike, just do it. And I'm like, okay. When you look at Adidas, what do they stand for, right? And I'm like, okay, if a college recruiter were to go on campus and look at you, what are they going to think of, right? It's your brand. And so what I always tell them is, make sure your pie is right, which is the performance, image, and exposure. Like, how is your grade? How are you performing in the classroom? How are you performing on the field? How are you performing how are you performing in your community? How are you performing on social media, right? What's your image like in the classroom? Like, are you sitting in front of the class? Or are you in the back with your hoodie on with your headphones in, right? What's your exposure like? Like, do a lot of people know you for being a great person in the community? Like, I want to know that brand of you. And so the first step I tell kids and make sure your brand is intact, because you have to sell that. Like, that's you. You are like athlete. I tell them all the time, you are a walking business, whether you believe it or not. You are the product, and you have to sell that product to people. So that's the first thing I tell them. Make sure their brand is intact. And then from there, now it's a sales game. Now you have to reach out to those different colleges, put together emails, attach your resume, which is your highlights and your grades and stuff like that. So you have to reach out to about, there's 120 in Division I schools, and 350 350 total in Division I, and like 400 in D2. So you have to reach out to all these colleges, and so that your exposure can be out there. And then if your product is right and you're selling it the right way, man, the opportunity is going to come. And so going back to your question, man, make sure your brand is right, and make sure you're a great salesman and understand the process of selling yourself to these colleges.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important. I think a lot of kids don't realize that they do have a brand. And now living in an era where you have Instagram and Snapchat and everything, that can be so dangerous. Yeah, especially because stuff comes back. What about college? I know that high school is okay, you're getting ready, hopefully a college will pick you up. When you get to college, how different is the tending to that brand? Does it shift at all? Is it more intense? So any tips that you can give us, or insights about how that life is?
Yeah. So when you go to college, it's the same thing, but now it's on a larger scale because more people are viewing you now. And so you really have to make sure your brand is tight. But not only that, like in college, what I tell athletes, now is your perfect time to transfer all the skills that you have into life after sports. Because, they say 1% of athletes go pro, but we can all agree, every athlete, 100% of everybody has to retire at some point in time. You're not going to always be an athlete. And so while we have this time and this opportunity, how are we going to maximize it, right? And so for me, it's learning those transferable skills. Like, what did you learn in college? I mean, in high school or in sports in general, like the dedication, the work ethic, the determination, right? And how can we transfer that into the real world as far as the, corporate life, and so I tell people all the time, like when I got done hanging up my cleats back in 2017, I just went straight into the nonprofit organizations. I, wanted to be of service. I helped at domestic violence shelters, reentry programs, because I just felt like that's what was needed from me to do. And then I got reached out to an opportunity to be a salesperson in a Fortune 100 company. I was like, I never had sales before, never sales experience. And I was like, you know what, let me try it. And so, they hired me based on my transferable skills, like the passion, the energy, the dedication, the determination, all from what I gathered in sports, and was able to transfer it over to the corporate world. So I would tell, like, when you go into that college realm, your brand is impact, and make sure that you know all your transferable skills so that you can be able to have a head start going into, life after your sport.
Very good pieces of advice there. That's so important for people to understand that in our youth, because I think a lot of them just think about the beautiful glory of it, the nice shiny things, and don't really focus on that other stuff, right?
Right.
what advice would you give a kid who's right now, let's say they have offers and they've
Hmm.
never signed this contract, they don't have the money to be going to a lawyer and revising that contract. How would you advise them to handle that situation, not having those resources?
Yeah, so when you have these scholarship offers, all of them are typically the same thing in regards to, so the scholarship is just saying that they're going to pay for your room, board, such and such, and all the stuff that they come. So there comes a time where you have a signing day. It's like a huge event nowadays. It's one of the most celebrated events called the signing day, National Letter of Intent. And so basically it's an agreement. It's not even from the NCAA. It's from like another party basically giving all that information saying, hey, this is an agreement that you and the university that you're going to agrees to a 1-year scholarship. Like kids nowadays think that once you get a scholarship offer for the full 4 years. It's not. It's a year-to-year agreement. And so
Wow.
like they're saying like, okay, you sign this, then we'll pay for your schooling for that year. I ran into that situation my freshman year. My head coach called me into the office. I'm thinking I'm in trouble. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? Because he had papers on the table. And I said, he said, I'm going to sit down real quick. I'm like, all right. And then he had these papers, and it was my scholarship papers. He said, hey, we're going to need you to sign this. And I'm like, I could have sworn I just did that last year, for a scholarship. I'm not on scholarship or something. He said, no, every year you have to sign a scholarship. And so I was like, wow, that's crazy. And so I didn't even know that going into it. And so the terminology in regards to all the contractual stuff with the offers and stuff, they're all the same, but take note that your scholarship is not for the full 4 years. It's year to year for sure.
Wow. Okay, what about going pro? How different is the
Hmm.
contract there?
Oh, that's when you need someone to look it over.
Yeah.
But,
Do you have a mentor? Like, how does this
yeah,
work? Because I would be excited but petrified at the same time, because
yeah,
you're like, yeah, this is exciting. They're gonna offer me all this money and all these years to play. But at the same time, you're like, wait, I don't want to be like the slave to this football team
yeah,
either, like I
yeah.
want to be taken advantage of. And it's a lot of what they offer, but is it what you're worth, you know?
Yeah. So in regards to the NFL, I can give you the NFL and CFL. So the NFL, like the contracts, like if you're drafted, you have a certain contract that's like 3 year, 4 years, such and such. And if you're undrafted, it's 3 years, such and such. And the difference is the incentive part. So, say you can have in a contract agreement, like if I play 1,000 snaps, I get this extra money, such and such. So it's different in that department. In the CFL, same thing. They give you a base salary based on the year-to-year agreements. If you want to do 1 year, 2 years, and then you have a 2-year option. So it's different, but for those type of contracts, I would definitely get someone to look it over, because the terminology in there, you'd be like, what in the world is this? It seemed like they just jumbled up a bunch of dictionary words, just put them in a sentence. And so those you may want to get someone to interpret it to you to make it sound like in your world. So yeah.
I can imagine, because I remember signing my contract for the military, and
Hmm.
there were so many pages, and I remember getting like writer's cramp signing each page. I was like, oh, I should read
Yeah.
it. It's fine print, but I remember kind of skimming through it. I'm like, I don't know what the hell this is saying.
Yeah.
Like, what? But I mean, I'm going anyway. But yeah, I
Hmm.
can imagine that's got to be very
Like
sensitive.
just give me the electronic form so I can
Right.
just do my signature one time and just click. Just let me do that
Or
way.
like,
Make it
can you
easier.
give me the cliff notes to this?
Right. Anything to make it easier.
Yeah.
Man.
All right. Wow. Well, this has been very insightful. Do you have any other tips for kids who are right now feeling insecure about their athletic abilities, whether it is, in their sport or with the academics? Any tips that you can give them on how to
Mm-hmm.
overcome any fears or even trust issues? Because I can imagine that when you're a really good player and you have a
Right.
lot of people coming at you, you always hear the stories of somebody got,
Taking advantage
hurt
of.
somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I always tell them, first things first, you need to do a self-assessment. And the way I do self-assessments is SWOT analysis. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard of it. And just understanding their strengths, not only as a player, but as a person too, and their weaknesses and areas, opportunities, and threats that may perceive them. And then from there, that's when you're able to, go to your peers, whether it's your guidance counselor, your coach, your family, just so that you can have a collective group of people with different thoughts and different perspectives and opinions about you on top of yours. So you can be like, okay, maybe I do need to work on that. Okay, that's what I'm strength. All right, let me go ahead and work on that more. And then after you do that, write out your goals, but not just any goals, the SMART goals. That's why I love using that one, where there's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And then because the reason why I like those, because it clarifies your ideas and makes it more as an objective to take action towards it, rather than, them just being an end goal. So those two things I tell people to pair up, like, do the self-assessment first, then do your goals, so that you can be on your way to fulfilling everything that you have wanted.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your tips there. And lastly, what do you have coming up? Anything in particular, or how can people reach you?
Yeah, definitely. So my website's under construction, but good thing about construction, it gets done after a while. So, and it looks better. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I can have that launched. My business is going to be launched as well, as far as, helping not only the athletes and students, but business professionals as well, just maximizing opportunities so they can achieve success. Everybody's version of success is different. So the main goal is figuring out what opportunities lies within them to maximize it, to reach that success. So that's what I have on par right now. And they can reach me through Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn. They're all the same thing. kscott_2. Again, it's kscott_2. You can reach me there. I'm friendly. I'm passionate. I'm energetic. You'll probably get a dose of energy from me from there. But yeah, feel free to follow me.
Thank you. And what's the name of your website going to be?
So the name of my website, just going to be my name, just Kenneth Scott. And then from there, it's going to have different segments, like my speaking engagements, and then my baby, which is MTSA, which stands for Maximizing the Student Athlete, where I'm going to be teaching student athletes how to maximize their window of opportunity, like I discussed, just to get them on board to transitioning afterwards, within and afterwards. And then lastly, my blogs, where I'll be doing weekly content, to where keeping people engaged. I love storytelling, so it's going to be a lot of storytelling in there within that. So they keep people informed. But yeah, that's what it's all about.
Great. And MTSA is going to be your online course, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's going to be my e-course that I'm going to be publishing out there, so that student athletes can take advantage of it. Whether you're in a middle school about to get in high school, or you're in high school, or you're in college, or you're at a junior college, or even if you're graduated from college, right? It has all those different levels, so that you can just get some insights, tips, tricks, advice to help propel you to the next level, to ultimately achieve that success that you want.
Wonderful. Do you do one-on-one coaching right now?
Right now, I currently don't, but that is something that I will orchestrate down the line, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to have questions. So I want to make sure I get to everybody and give them the right time needed, so that, we can take advantage of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, for inspiring us, and for giving us very valuable tips, so that, kids can make the right decisions and plan out their future, and hopefully have a lot of success. And
thank you.
I'll have you back on the show again.
Awesome. Appreciate you. And thank you for allowing me on your platform.
You're welcome. Well, there you have it, folks. Kenneth Scott, another wonderful, inspiring person, has come on to the Dalitalks show because he cares about you. Yes, the Dalitalks community. He wanted to share his story and the tips that he provided, so that he can in some way help you overcome any of your challenges. If you have a child who is thinking of going pro with a sport, make sure that they listen to Kenneth. I mean, grades are very important. And remember, have a mentor. He's also available on Instagram. His Instagram is Kenneth Scott _2. He is available via DM on Instagram and also on Twitter. Don't forget, same handle. Also be on the lookout for his website launch. If you like this video, please click like, subscribe so you get notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget, come on to Dalitalks.com, subscribe to my newsletter so that you can get updates. You'll also learn about upcoming guests and other events going on with Dalitalks.com. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week.